Welcome back, folks. Time for another comic review. This time we're going to be going through the old World of Love, part 1 of 5, the new Amazing Spider-Man series from 2022. So I have all of these, just now starting to dig into them. It's been interesting hearing other people's points of view on this Zeb Wells run, but I will make my own determination here. June of 2022, World Without Love 1 of 5. There's no real story title, but that's the name of the trade paperback that the issues 1 and 5 are included in, so that's what we're going with. So this is the OG cover. This is the cover I picked up. I actually have a couple variants of this. I was stupid, dumb. I was getting back into comics and I picked up a couple of these variant covers for this series, and a few of them were kind of pricey, this being one of them, which is cool. You know, it's a New Mutants 98 homage, but so this one's done by Jamal Campbell. You know, there's not really a whole heck of a lot that you get from the story on the A cover. You know, you just see Spider-Man, so whoop-de-doo. So this is just as relevant as that cover. Writer Zeb Wells, artist was old classic John Romita Jr. First off, I hadn't read Spider-Man in many years, so my exposure to backstory, the characters, all that stuff's going to be a bit weak. Just saying that to go in here. The issue starts off with Spidey outside of York, PA. He's in the middle of nowhere, freezing in the snow, with his costume all sorts of tattered, and he's pretty distraught. Next page, scene change. Fast forward to 6 months later. So something happened. We don't know, but we're fast forwarding in time. So we're in Queens. Peter, who's still looking disheveled, is sitting there talking to Aunt May. It looks as if they had to move to kind of a smaller apartment. May thinks Peter's lying to her about something, but Peter's not quite ready to tell her. They sort of lead to her being right, but he's not ready to really say anything specific. So another scene change. We're now in Alphabet City. Peter gets stopped by a bill collector as he's walking down the street, who's looking to collect on some unpaid medical bills. So, okay, we're getting a bit more details here. It seems that they may have had a move or something may have happened that cranked their medical bills through the roof. He bumps into a dude named Randy, who apparently is a friend, which he recently burned financially somehow. Randy tells Peter that he's going to be asking Janice to marry him, but apparently Janice's father is a murderer. And that murderer he's actually having dinner with tonight. And he wants to ask his permission to marry his daughter. So he's kind of going to go the old school classic way, ask the father first. The guy's apparently a bad guy. I don't at this time know who Janice's father is, so I have no idea what kind of murderer he is, to what extent. So he mainly wanted Peter to check up on him to make sure the dinner's going as planned and he didn't just... I guess get killed by the murderer for asking for his daughter's hand in marriage. Peter agrees, but he doesn't really seem to give a shit about Randy. At least that's the impression he's giving Randy. He's just sort of blowing him off like, yeah, whatever. And then after Randy leaves, Peter thinks to call Mary Jane. He pulls out his smartphone, but sort of decides against it when he gets a text from Randy that says, hey, dude, just a reminder, don't fuck me over tonight. Make sure I'm not getting killed by some murderer. Come check up on me. So we get another scene change. And we see that the father of the hopeful bride is actually Tombstone. So Tombstone and some of his goons are sitting around a table discussing territory to give to Kingpin's kid, the Rose. But Tombstone didn't really go in for it. He doesn't really see a reason to give any territory to this cat. So the Rose attempts to prove his loyalty by having some dude named Digger come busting out like the Hawaiian Tropic guy which apparently he's some sort of gamma irradiated gangster. So he has a hulkish look to him, but there's something different about him, and he busts onto the scene as sort of a show of the Rose's might, that, hey, I command Digger, so therefore I'm a badass, so give me some territory. So apparently, you know, through this, Tombstone and the Rose are able to come to an agreement on buying and selling some product and set up a meeting for later. At this time, we don't really know what the product is. Tombstone seems to have some bodyguard, that's all muscled up, named Rabbit, who is some sort of chick that actually has ears that look like she's organically a rabbit, not just dressed up in costume as one. So I don't know who this character is, but that's Tombstone's bodyguard. So we get a scene change. Now we see Peter's all washed up. He's freshly shaven. You know, before he was looking like me, like a bum, hanging out with Aunt May, all disheveled, distraught. So Peter's getting cleaned up for Randy's dinner. It looks like he actually does care a little bit. He decides to leave without his costume, and it seems they make some note that he's not quite ready to wear that again, or at least not yet tonight. As he's leaving, he gets a surprise appearance, and we get a surprise cameo of the Human Torch. So apparently Johnny flies in and stops Peter as he's leaving his apartment. It looks like Johnny has a hard time controlling his heat levels right now. So Peter comments that Johnny's like extra warm, and Johnny says, yeah, that's an issue I have that I'm not really happy about. And there's some notes that say to check out Fantastic Four issue number 34 for details surrounding that particular issue, whatever happened to Johnny that made him extra hot. They get into an argument, and Peter takes off. So apparently, Peter feels that Johnny was here to beat him up over what Johnny thinks Peter stole from the Fantastic Four. So apparently the perception is Peter took something, stole something from them, and burned them. So he burned the Fantastic Four, burned his buddy Randy. And Peter doesn't want to talk about it, and he gets the hell out of there. And it's made clear that Johnny was really just there checking up on Peter as a friend, not necessarily to get into an argument about whatever this particular item is he supposedly stole from them. So we get another scene change. We see Tombstone and Randy are at some restaurant called The Edge eating dinner. Randy gets the guts to ask Tombstone for his permission to marry Janice. And then T turns around and busts his balls a little bit. It seems that Randy's dad is also a gangsta. So at some point in time, he stabbed Tombstone with a pitchfork. So you got Janice's dad, who's Tombstone. You got Randy's dad, who is some dude that was able to actually stab Tombstone. So apparently he thinks he's a badass. Peter's outside the restaurant looking in. He's sort of watching over what's going on. Things look to be going okay, so he decides to take off. He sees T's goons around the back of the restaurant, as well as White Rabbit. So we get the full name, not just White Rabbit, getting into a car. And then he makes the note that he regrets not grabbing his costume before he left the house this evening. So page flip. Just kidding. He did get his costume. So that's a cute little one. It seems that Peter decided to double back, which they didn't show in the comic, and actually grab his costume. So he has it. He's costumed up. He silently lands on the roof of the car, and he rides it till it gets us to its destination at the Hudson, which apparently is the location for the meetup that was planned earlier. So it looks like the product is actually a goblin glider. So apparently the Rose is looking to get his hands on some sort of goblin glider. Spidey interrupts with some sort of a clever joke during the exchange. Rose calls in Digger, or Rose's henchman. Rose isn't actually here. He calls in Digger. So Digger gets the jump on Spidey. He has his hands wrapped around his neck, choking him. Spidey starts snapping his fingers off. So apparently, whatever Digger's weakness is, Spidey's able to just snap his fingers off, right there while he's grabbing his neck. And it appears that these two have history. So the last time they met, Spidey, quote unquote, wore out and melted Digger. And Digger disagrees with that, but that's what we're told happened. So apparently that's his weakness. He could sort of go hard, and then once he extends all his energy, he sort of just melts out and then somehow, reforms up again later, apparently. So Digger flips a van, it explodes. Spidey dives in and saves Rabbit and some other guy from the blast. Digger makes the call to the rest of the crew that they should get out of there before he wears out. So again, this reiterates the thought that he sort of has a set amount of energy that he can expend before he's done. And you see or you hear that the cops are on the way. So all this hasn't gone unnoticed. There are actually cops on the way towards this meetup. Rabbit mentions that she doesn't want to stick around due to the history with Bullseye, which may get her arrested. So these are references made to events in Devil's Reign, it's noted. So whatever happened in there, something happened between Rabbit and Bullseye. So apparently she's been around a while that I don't know about. Rabbit refuses to tell Spidey where Digger's going. So he takes off, leaving her all webbed up to a vehicle with the other dude Spidey saved, attempting to sort of free her before the cops get there. So then we got a scene change, and we're at 4 hours later. Spidey makes it home, no luck finding Digger on his own. So apparently he looked around for a few hours and no luck. I don't know where he was looking, but yeah. He crashes in bed exhausted and then decides to call Mary Jane. She answers, tells him to stop. Just stop calling, leave me alone, and then she hangs up on his ass. So there's something going on between him and Mary Jane we don't know yet. Another scene change. So now we're in Harlem. Tombstone sipping on some wine, talking on the phone with Hammerhead, who's telling him, we don't see Hammerhead, we just hear him talking on the phone with him, who's telling him about Spidey breaking up the deal earlier in the evening. T continues to relax at home, doesn't really seem like it's a big deal, and then he smells something in the air. He has sort of an oh shit moment right there in the comics books. Page flip, major explosion. So T's house is up in flames. We're sort of informed that the Rose's goons decide to blow up his place with him inside as sort of a retaliation for the deal gone wrong earlier. They sort of think that he had a part in the deal going wrong, so this was a perfect opportunity to take Tombstone out from the Rose's perspective. Page flip. Tombstone's walking out of the rubble with his cap wrapped up in his arms. So he's got his kitty right there and he's out. So apparently he's a badass. I don't really know all of Tombstone's strengths and weaknesses, but apparently he was able to survive the explosion and protect his cat from dying in the explosion as well. Another scene change. So Peter's waking up, trying to get motivated for the day. The day proceeds, but, Peter struggles to be productive at all. So you go through a lot of different scene change of him just wasting time throughout the day. Next thing you know, it's 5:30 p.m. and Tombstone pulls up in his car outside of wherever Peter's walking, and he tells him to get in. T makes it clear that he knows that Peter knows Spider-Man, but he doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man. So he tells him about the attack by the Rose. He wants Peter to let Spidey know that the war between the Rose and him is actually his fault. You broke up the deal. Now I'm at war, so you're involved because you shouldn't have messed in my shit. So he lets him know, Peter, let Spider-Man know I've got a beef with his ass now too. And Peter/Spidey seems fine with it. He's like, I've been bored anyway. He knows what he's thinking, so bring it on. And then Tombstone kicks Peter out of his car and drives off. It seems that Peter was actually outside of Mary Jane's place. So prior to the conversation with Tombstone, she sort of was watching him from the window seeing that he was getting out of his car until some dude named Paul shows up with a bunch of kids who run towards her calling her mommy. So who the fuck is Paul and who the fuck are these kids? Don't know. You just see him running towards Mary Jane calling out mommy. And then the issue ends. Until a couple pages later. So then there's actually a post-credits scene, which was neat. A 2-page spread. You see that Doc Ock is being restrained or suspended in some sort of machine by some scientist who I don't really recognize, who says, quote unquote, his mind is hungry. And then the issue actually ends. So we bring Doc Ock into it. We see a lot of stuff going on with Spider-Man, Mary Jane, Randy, there's some crap there. We don't really know what's up. And we get a little bit of a glimpse of what's going on in the future. So, I think it was a good read. I've got no complaints. Zeb Wells, this was fine. I enjoyed it. I thought the story was engaging. And it sort of left me looking forward to issue 2. I want to see where this goes. So we'll see. I hear the Tombstone story arc is great. After that, it falls down, but we're only on issue 1, so we'll enjoy it while we can. So, this cover, Jamal Campbell, writer Zeb Wells, art was great. No complaints with the art. John Romita Jr. brought it. Had no issues with that. Overall, I'd recommend it. Give it a shot. We'll see how long this lasts. Until next time, peace.